Hey, welcome to Cloud Unplugged. I am here with Salman, a new co-host. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself, Salman?
I feel like I need to have that mic that was in the intro, but I don't have that mic in my hand. So yeah, hi. My name is Salman Iqbal, and I'm co-hosting Cloud Unplugged with the one and only John Shanks. It's the first time for me on a podcast as a host. So let's see how it goes. I'm excited for this
Yeah,
season.
this is good. It's going to be good. We've got 4 news topics. We've got the Anthropic Mythos and the Glasswing project. I think that's something you're going to talk about, Salman. We've got the Vercel breach and what that means for AI, but really, was it AI or was it more supply chain? We'll come on to that. Tim Cook leaving and what it actually means to the strategy of Apple overall in the AI arms race that's going on. More AI again, Andon Labs, a researching company who have basically created a shop all based on AI driving the business on its own. And then we've got your sneaky story, which we'll kind of come on to as a surprise outside of mine as a last thing, which is something you're going to talk about. I'll we'll kind of crack on into that a bit later. But do you want to kind of kick off on the Anthropic stuff and Mythos Glasswing project and what's been going on there?
Absolutely. We all care about security in software supply chain. Security is very important to all of us, especially us working in the cloud as well. So Anthropic a few weeks ago announced this project Glasswing, which is a closed invite-only project for a bunch of companies, including Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and some other companies as well, to invite them to work on and improve the software security supply and looking at things like if you can figure out if there's issues in your software supply chain. And it uses a specific model that they announced called Mythos or Mythos. I think Mythos, that's what they call it, Mythos. And the position, it got announced as a massive fanfare, as a major breakthrough in AI cybersecurity. And a lot of security companies, as is always the case with the announcements from Anthropic recently, every time there's an announcement in a specific area, the stock plummets for other companies. So they released it. They found a lot of vulnerabilities in FreeBSD, in Mozilla, in a bunch of other frameworks that have been out there. Some vulnerabilities that didn't exist a long time ago as well. Like they've been in the ecosystem for 20 or 30 years. So it managed to find those vulnerabilities and report on it. And there was a FreeBSD as well, OpenBSD, all of that stuff was there, which is good. It's great news for the ecosystem. We have a new system that's come out. But the reason why I bring this to the table is when it got announced, the closed sourceness of this thing, it creates a bit of an imbalance between what like the big companies are doing, or maybe perhaps what a little open source smaller projects will do. That's the high level. But then also some security companies manage to use different models to try and recreate the same issues. So the Mythos is closed source, is a bit more expensive. So I thought it'll be interesting to discuss what our take is on this, and I'll be interested to hear from you as a veteran of the cloud and security space, just to hear your inputs as well.
So this then the whole Mythos thing. Are you skeptical? Did I detect a bit of a hint of skepticism? Skepticism, is that right? On whether or not this is more of a promotional PR stunt.
No,
Is that what you're thinking, or do you actually
no,
think
no,
it's true?
I'm not saying
Come on,
it's
Simon, tell us the truth.
I'm not claiming that it's promotional PR. I mean, it's a great piece of work that they're doing in the ecosystem. It's an amazing thing that they're trying to do. But sometimes there's a bit more hype than there is. For example, anything that surrounds Anthropic recently, they announced Claude design, where you can just design stuff automatically. Forget about Figma. That's what the chat was on the social media.
Right.
Forget about Figma, and now you can just do everything with Claude design. And of course, when that got announced, Adobe stock went down, Figma stock went down, and everybody's jumped on it. I wanted to give it a go because I make animations for my videos, but I'll be pleased to say that I burned all my credits within 30 minutes because has a different credit limit, but I didn't get what I wanted, and it made me a llama which didn't even look like a llama as a design. It's some like cartoonish thing that you draw in MS Paint. So I'm saying it is an excellent project where you can find, going back to Glasswing, it is an amazing project where there's a lot more work to be done, and that's why hence they ask so many companies to collaborate with them. But sometimes these things are a bit overhyped. IL is a security company. They used some of the open source tools and also some of the closed source tools that you have, but not as expensive models. They managed to find the same vulnerabilities in the system, and they've been doing that since last year, since 2025. They've been looking at these vulnerabilities in OpenBSD, FreeBSD, and they did announce them, but of course, no such fanfare was attached to their announcement than it was to Anthropic's. So
right, I see.
I'm guessing because a lot of companies were involved with them. So, and plus is Anthropic, so there's a bit of hype there.
Yeah, so I kind of was reading about this, and from what, well, yeah, there was a bit of a funny thing because we've done a few different stories, as in there were one, again, this is a bit of this is probably my cynicism, but on the PR side, they were like kind of talking about what it might mean to security companies. Like, oh, it costs like $20,000 to like test your software. We did this for like $50 on a token. So I was like, okay, that's like one spin. Is like how much cheaper and effective it can kind of be. But from what I read, though, I think it was to do with out of how many attempts would the model actually take its own free will, I guess, to a point on the exploitation. Like if it found something, would it actually write the code to exploit it, or would it just be like highlight the fact that it's found something that has like maybe a vulnerability? And under the Opus one, like 4.6, you could run it hundreds and hundreds of times, and only twice did it ever produce an actual exploit. Whereas with Mythos, it actually like 100 times more likely to have generated an exploit for it. Not just highlighted what it's found, but actually then chain a set of events. So I think it was like actually it looked at multiple pathways, and then found multiple ways to kind of like chain things together to get an exploit. So it's some things were quite complicated, and then it would actually take the initiative to then obviously write the exploit as well. So that was kind of the concern, I think, which is like, well, it might mean that, you kind of raise an exploit. I guess the thing I have a bit of beef with the most, I think, with this is it being trying to be like a positive and a negative all at the same time. So they're like gating it through a PR event of like, let's create a closed group, let's call it Glasswing, the Glasswing project. We need like people to support us on like validating the model on that side. But on the second side, their like stance is, well, this is great because you can now find vulnerabilities really easily in your software, and actually it's really powerful, and we should be security testing anyway, and blah blah blah. But actually, the barrier for entry is just dropped. So it's like, well, there's a difference between a security specialist that's literally, quite niche, and somebody, I don't know comparatively to the model, but probably a unicorn of an individual, right? To be able to do what Mythos could do is rare. You'd have to probably spend loads of money. You'd have to try and find them. There's probably not many of them around. Versus now, you could just be anyone that goes on and just like get me an expert. And it's so the barrier for entry is reduced. There's no culpability. There's no legalities around it because the laws haven't changed. It's on the person who does the exploit, not on their company, even though they've reduced the barrier for entry. So all of that side of things, more from a regulatory and legal stance, feels like government or body should be responding to it, saying, okay, hey, just a minute, you're about to drop the barrier for entry. almost anybody, you know, an 8-year-old could probably come in and be like, get me an exploit to my, I don't know, this website, or go and hack my school's website and school systems or whatever else. And it's like, yeah, well, you know, it's not our fault, it's your kids. Maybe you should, do you know what I mean? It's like, don't blame us for your unruly children.
So you're saying that Mythos and Project Glasswing can basically become like the red team and just go, instead of you hiring, because hiring a red team and doing this is quite expensive. That's exactly what you're saying, right? So that's what,
yeah, that's kind of what they're saying. Even they're like, because of like, oh my god, look, you know, this is, it's like it would normally cost you like 20 grand to get this like pen testers in or do something. It's like, just for 50 quid, $50, guys, you can do the same thing. So that they're kind of spinning it, but through an angle of like business lens, but actually their behaviors on it is very different to the promotional aspect of it. Do you see what I mean? Like the way they've, and so it's like on one side you're behaving one way, on the other side you're saying something else from a PR perspective, and on the other side from a government lens, you're like, well, what's everyone else doing? Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, who else is like, what from a regulatory perspective? Which I'm not saying like we need to regulate everything, but what does it mean when you make everything so accessible that means that you could just compromise something quite easily?
Well, is that any different to any of the other tooling that already exists out there? Yes, the barrier to entry is high, but over time, a bunch of tools have come out that software engineers can also use. You know, a simple example like Wireshark. When Wireshark didn't used to exist, you can't even see the packets or on the network. So does that mean that even then the person who had a bit of knowledge about software, they could start using these tools and start hacking or doing the red team efforts? Would they be culpable? Are they culpable?
Well, that's the stance, isn't it? I think, because it's like that will be their argument. You know, really, that will be exactly what they'll say. Is like, well, hey, just a minute, this has existed already. We're not doing anything different. But it's like, we kind of are, because literally, I don't need to know anything. The same way as I could go to it today and be like, write me an email in Spanish. I can't speak any Spanish, or like literally, I could I might just know to say hello. You know, so there's a difference in trying to understand the data of like packet inspection on a network and actually understanding what it really means, versus just never really even having to understand anything at all. And then even anything you don't understand, you just pass it back. And you're just like, can you deal with this? Because I don't understand it. And on it goes in a chain. What do you think about it anyway? Do you share that opinion? Or do you think I'm being a paranoid loon or something?
Well, the thing about security, how I look at it, is it's like layers of Swiss cheese, because it has lots of holes in it. This is the analogy people use all the time. I think this is just yet another tool in that, oh, I need to have code isolation. I need to have automated scanning. I need to have validation. Yeah, great. Project when exists. It's an excellent tool. It's an excellent model, as you talk about. And ISLE, when they did their test, yes, they found some of the models weren't as you were saying, weren't as good at finding these vulnerabilities. But some like Chad, I can't remember, GPT OSS, I think version 4, version 5, whichever one it was good at finding it. So I think all I'm saying is these tools already exist. You know, Claude already had a scan as well, Claude security scan too. They already exist. Sometimes we get caught up in the hype when Anthropic released something, and everybody else is like, this is it. We don't need any more security. Everything's automated. You don't need to do anything else. But all of that stuff still applies. All the OAuth practices still apply. Yes, this tool will give you a earlier visibility of something that's perhaps gone wrong or has been going wrong for a while. You didn't catch it. But all the good practices, they don't get thrown out of the window. They still have to apply. You still have to have all those practices. So I think all I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't fall for the hype. I fell for the hype. I was thought, I don't need to do anything for security anymore. And when I started looking into it a little bit more, I was like, okay, yeah, fine. I understand.
Yeah, it's not. I guess it's not just following the hype, but it's the hype plus, you know, like the rate of change, plus it being a bit like it's gangster, right? It's like protection money. You know now that they're probably going to bring something out now that's like, you know, the Claude security tool that like helps you against other models trying to hack you. So in one side of like got a model that could hack you, on the other side have probably got an agent or some other tool that you also can buy that kind of detects the hacking or something. So it's like basically it's like pay us the money or we'll rob your house. But if you pay us the money, yeah, and you're like, that's basically what's going to become, which is a really bad thing because it's nothing like that at all, because I do really like it. So I'm like obviously slagging it off, but really use it every day. But anyway, that's just how it
I should put a disclaimer. I love the stuff Anthropic do, right? Claude Code, I use it all the time. But like, for example, this Mythos model, there's some information out there. Opus costs $5 per million tokens for an input, and the output is like $25 per million token. But the Mythos cost is $25 per million tokens for input and $125 per million tokens for output. Going to the point that you're making, that yeah, it's like, oh, we can give you this, but it's gonna cost you a little bit more. But then you also have to balance with, what do you have? Do you have an alternative for it? Can you do this yourself? Maybe that cost is reasonable.
Exactly, it's fair. Yeah, I mean, it is amazing. That's the thing. It's amazing, but it's also scary, and it's also like, you know, it's got the touch of everything all kind of going on at the same time, isn't it? But it's kind of funny. But I guess leading on to security, Vercel got hacked, kinda, but through really Context.ai. And I actually, when we were speaking, I didn't realize until you were kind of mentioning it to me recently that actually it was Context.ai that got hacked, and then Vercel were on the tail end of it because of an employee. So actually, I don't know if you want to talk about it, because you know it, you obviously going through it.
Secondhand smoking is what we call it usually. They got called out. So Vercel is a cloud platform, and you can host your applications, your websites, and whatever you want. It's basically a cloud platform that you can use. I have used it in the past, and a lot of people that I know are vibe coding stuff nowadays are using that platform to host their websites and host everything else, which is an excellent product, and I've used it, and they have very reasonable pricing for the hosting. So what had happened? It's unfortunate that a couple of weeks ago, an attackers accessed the internal system and customer data, but not directly, but via the Context.ai third-party tool that an employee was using. So an employee was using Context.ai tool using an OAuth token, so they authenticated using the Google Workspace to use that tool, which whatever they were doing. And Context.ai got hacked, and then whoever the attacker was managed to access the environment variables, the API keys, anything that was in the Google Workspace for OAuth, for Vercel. So they managed to get some information, and some customers were affected, some weren't. They did come across, straight away. They were very good and they were very open. I was following that on Twitter, and their founder as well. They told people what needed to be done, that you can rotate your tokens and things like that. But again, there were a lot of people. They were like, "What does the rotation of a token mean?" Because because the barrier to entry is now low, right? Which is great. Anybody can use this stuff. So the language sometimes also needs to be on par with what people can understand. And then people were spending the weekend. It happened last weekend. People were spending the weekend rotating secrets. I just deleted my account, even though I didn't have any secrets on there for now.
Oh wow, you went all out and
I just deleted my account. Kill switch. Remember, we talked about security. You need to have a kill switch. I hosted it somewhere else. But that's what happened. Basically, what this shows is Vercel will have amazing security, protection against security threats and attacks that might be happening. We just talked about this security in layers, but a single integration can cause a massive blast radius. So this is something you can get compromised like that, which I thought is an interesting to discuss. Maybe what's your thoughts on this?
What do you classify this as? Because obviously you get the supply chain, which is like normally from pulling down other software dependencies and from one down into the other, and obviously it's like a Russian doll effect of like lots and lots of things containing other things, and it all bundles down, and somewhere within all of that chain could be like a vulnerability. Whereas this is not traditional supply chain. It's like, but it is a chain in itself, obviously, of suppliers, I suppose. So I just wonder, is that what it is still deemed in the industry? Is it still supply
It
chain?
still
I don't
is.
know.
But they're
It is,
calling
yeah.
it. I read it, and they're calling it the modern supply chain attack, targeting AI
Right.
tools
Okay. Yeah.
rather than infrastructure. Right? That's how it's been framed as. That's how it came
Right.
across. Because Context.ai is another AI tool, and that's how it's being. It's still a supply chain attack because it is in your.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is in your chain, but there's a lot of people. Even I use OAuth to authenticate against various systems in various places. But you kind of have to keep reviewing these tools over time because of this pace of change, John. Like you touched on that before. I think is a little bit hard to keep track on what's going on, what's wrong. It's just you just have to be a little bit careful. All the security principles that you have before they still apply. This
Yeah.
is it? Yeah. So this is. I don't know what your thoughts are on this.
I find it a little bit like I guess there's like two bits on it for me. Is one is like slightly self-reflective of how lazy I'm becoming, as in like I really don't like much effort anymore for anything, and it's incremental. It's like an incremental thing where installing software on your machine to do like things, and then you're like, oh, now it's in the cloud, I don't even need to install things, it's just like there, I go to a website, and then food delivered to your door, and all these like things, and then you're like, oh great, just anything single sign-on, I don't have to have loads of passwords, and then now you're into AI and you're like, oh great, I don't have to really keep uploading documents and my images. I just give you access to my Google Drive, or give you access to OneDrive. Like, do you know what I mean? Like you find it, it's there, rather than me move it, paste it in. So then each time that window slides of convenience, then the more risk kind of you are exposed to, really, because it does, there's like a I guess a multiplier effect. The more times you're doing that, the more likely you have more things that have more access. And then I couldn't even, I reckon if you ask most people, like, okay, how much single sign-on, where's your identity like signed into in this moment in time? Like, how many systems do you reckon you've got a single sign-on token access that's probably got some privileges maybe on the claim? And people probably wouldn't even know. They wouldn't be able to tell you. They might just think 3 or 4. And then you'd have a look, it'd probably be like 25 or 50 or something.
Yeah.
So I think that's the scary thing. And then auditing, that's really hard, I think, I think it's great on one side because it's so convenient and makes everything easier. On the other side, I guess this is the risk, isn't it? It's you just one exploit on that token that someone's then got access to before you can start scooting about their estate and finding things out as them.
No, it's interesting. You say you're becoming lazy, but some people argue you're becoming more efficient because you don't have to just single sign-on everywhere, right? So
if we were to play the Anthropic playbook, we would be saying it's an efficiency game. All right,
exactly
guys.
What it is. Efficiency game.
Exactly. It's an efficiency game. Messing. And then, so another story then, Tim Cook, probably a little bit of cover, not so like technical, technology-based, AI-based, but I found this interesting only for the fact that Tim said he wasn't retiring or anything 4 weeks prior. And then John Turnus has obviously been announced that he's now going to be the new CEO. And then Tim Cook's kind of like not really stepping down fully. He's still there and transitioning over. But it obviously feels more pointed because of John Turnus's background being in hardware and, he was responsible for the M series Silicon program. And rolling that out, which is obviously a massive success. So it just kind of gave a hint into their strategy for them as a company that they're aiming more for the devices and, let's get a CEO that's hardware driven in charge who can kind of drive that strategy and think about how can we run models on phones and how can we compute things locally on devices. So that felt like quite an interesting thing. And on the other side, you kind of got their competitor, which is Google as well. And they're kind of owning everything, the cloud, the phones, the models, you know, and
Yeah.
they're like, so it's like just a different play. But anyway, that was just more amusing on an
Amusing.
interest, yeah, amusing on an interest of like, oh, kind of interesting that they've made that decision now
Well,
of all the
yeah. I mean,
times, yeah,
I don't want to read too much into it, but Tim Cook was from supply chain, right? So I think he was a
yeah,
supply chain person before. And Turnus, as you say, is a hardware person. And recently Gemini 4, Google announced Gemini 4, a bunch of models within Gemini 4. Some of them can run on a phone, right?
yeah. Is
So
this the
it's
Gemma one?
Gemini. I one of the Gemini ones. Yes, yes. Well,
Yeah,
Gemini. The Google Gemini models. One of them run on the phone. Perhaps what you're saying is right. So I think they're focusing on, because now you can either you have there's so many models out there, right?
hmm,
But hardware is only a handful of companies that are making hardware that can run this stuff. So perhaps that's a bit of their strategy as well to maybe improve, because the M chips are amazing for a bunch of
yeah.
stuff. People couldn't even buy the Mac Minis because everybody's running OpenClaw on it. I know you have a bunch of automation running in the house doing your laundry and stuff like that, and
Oh yeah,
making.
yeah. It's all
Yeah,
robotic.
I know everything is robotic for you. I know you got
Yeah,
like
yeah,
5 of those running in your house. So I
yeah,
think Apple saw that with what happened with OpenClaw. It got sold out. The minis got sold out because of the capabilities. Perhaps they're like, we need to double down and maybe work more into the hardware. Not reading too much
that's
into
it.
it, but Nvidia is also doing like, and okay, Nvidia is just, they're the biggest player right now in GPU land. So I think they might be onto something here with the even bigger market share capturing, because phones, they've got it right, fine, big market share, and also devices too. They're getting it. Perhaps they are maybe make more into maybe some stuff for the data center. Maybe they release their own M series GPUs.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is. I think it's more if they can get the hardware exceptionally powerful to run models at, and still, because what they've been phenomenal at is obviously the size of the phone, the design of the phone,
Yeah,
and then the capability on the chip. So that's always been their strength.
yeah,
Is like you're saying, like the size of it, the from a consumer perspective, the
yeah,
accessibility of it, convenience of it.
yeah.
And so it does feel like, as they've not got into the model building side, that their
Mm.
players, let's not waste time building models, right? People are going to do that, and let's yeah, let's focus on the hardware, and let's see. Probably, I mean, I'm just speaking as if I know. I'm just making all this up about this. All this is like a hypothetical strategy, but you'd think that they'd be like, well, we can then at some point probably there will be models that you'll be able to just run locally.
Mm.
Security would be a big risk. What happens if you're offline? Or you've got like very costly compute exercise that you kind of need to do for certain things. You can't
Yeah,
be expected if you're on the tube to have an
yeah, yeah,
experience just that, right? So I imagine that they're really going in on the experience side of like, if we can invest in that and then run a model and we can make that work and it's really small, then we can like
yeah,
go head and shoulders above everybody else. Um,
yeah. I'm
is
I'm
my
ready for
theory.
it. I'm ready
Yeah,
for
you
it.
ready for it? Are you going to be
I'm
like
ready for
me then and have robots and
it.
I
Robots
mean, I've got
everywhere.
escalators and slides. I don't even. My aim is to be roughly maybe 50 tons in size eventually, where AI is delivering my food. I've got an escalator upstairs. I slide back down my house. I don't
That's it.
leave. That's just never
You
leave
just
my house.
John, you're trying to be efficient with your life. That's all.
So it's all
You're not
about
moving,
efficiency.
you're not moving, but you're being efficient. You're getting everything done. So
Exactly.
I mean, I'd love to have run some of these models on my phone when I don't have internet. Which is anytime you get on a train within UK, you have no internet. So I would
Yeah.
love to run these models and help myself with some stuff. So yeah, for sure.
And
So good luck,
I kind of gave a hint
good luck to
on.
the new CEO. Good luck to the new CEO.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Good luck. Yeah, I want to know more about. I mean, I'll talk about my story, but it's a little bit. But I want to kind of know more about your random
Random story.
story. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to break it before I get into mine.
Absolutely, John.
Yeah.
You know what? We all established that you love efficiency, and we know that you love a sharp fade on your hairstyle. You love that.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, you have to go to a barber. And sometimes it's just walk in. You can't even book an appointment to some of these barber shops. You're sitting there and you're waiting for your turn, and there's like 5 people in front of your queue, and it's kind of hard. And then one of the barbers is empty, but you know he doesn't cut that well, so you don't really want to go to him. So that's a bit awkward. And you're just waiting for the best barber in the shop, and nothing's going on, and you're just wasting your time. Internet is terrible, so you can't even use any of the models that you want to use to brainstorm. So Glide, the company called Glide, Glyde, they said, you know what? We'll get you some clippers which are AI based, and they will do a better job at cutting your hair than a normal person would. Right? So these clippers, these are actual clippers which have an attachment. So there's like a bigger clipper attachment that the clippers go on, and they're AI powered. And how do they work? Is they you put a band on, and the idea is you give this clipper to somebody who's never cut hair. So you don't have to go to the barber, right? And then you put this clipper on, and it's got this band that you put on. The band just tells you select what hairstyle you want. Yeah, I want to fade, because that's what the clippers do, right? They're gonna fade the hair in, and then there's a screen on the. We'll put the link in the show notes. There's a screen on the clipper that tells you, okay, now you need to move it here, move it there. Just rough movements like up, down, left, and right.
So you have to move, or that you
No.
move the clippers on remotely.
A person still has to cut your hair, but they don't have to be a barber. They can be I can cut your hair, John. We can try this. This thing costs
I see. So basically, it almost guides them and explains to them how to use the clippers as AI, rather than like
and the blades, the way the blades work, they move themselves. So you don't, right now, if you have to do a fade, you got to change the setting, go in, move it like that. The blades are a little bit bigger, and then the way they move, they just move themselves. You just put it in the vicinity. I want to put it here, and they will do the cut. Say, okay, now move it here. It'll do the fade up, down, whatever. It'll change the settings.
Wow. Would you let me do that then? If I get these clippers, would you trust me to use Glide and give you a good fade?
How about this? I'll get the clippers. I'll test it on you, and then you can do
it. Kind of wasn't the question. That was kind of the question I just was just saying to you. Is like, would you trust these clippers? Are you going to trust me to do your fade? Would you trust me? Do you believe
I would
that?
Do it.
Like,
would you? We do it live with Cloud Unplugged. How about that? One day we'll get this. We'll do it live with Cloud Unplugged.
This is where we both come back with the most horrific hairstyles on the next episode that anyone's ever seen.
If the hairstyle is terrible, we can go bald for a couple of weeks. That's all right.
So basically, then just so I understand, then there's a band around a band that's a physical band, as in you.
Yeah, it's like a thin band that goes around. That's just your training line. Oh, don't go above this line or that line. Right?
Yeah, okay. So basically, it's just a guideline, a bit like the when you're bowling, it's like the kid, like you put.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, like that.
That is exactly what it is. And then some people did a haircut. Of course, it was in CES in Vegas. They did some haircut. Of course, it's not as good as a professional doing your fade, but you can get the short straw if you go to the worst barber in the barber shop and get a really terrible fade.
So random.
And it did a reasonable job of cutting hair. The fade wasn't amazing, but it did a reasonable job of cutting hair. Technology is coming there. That means, John, you can be way more efficient. You don't have to go.
So everyone that was like, oh, AI is just coming for like the tech jobs and like all this, and then they're like, no, it's coming for the barbers. Like, nobody knew that. At the whole time, everyone's been sidetracked with like developers and all this time. There's like this, this movement going on around the side that's about to take out hairdressers and barbers. Yeah, scissors will be next. They'll be like,
what else?
Hair extensions. Where does it go from here? We've all got amazing hair extensions. We've all got good perms, tight perms coming into work. Yeah.
What's your news story? And we can end on that.
So there was a Andon Labs, who is like a AI kind of research company. I think does mostly around agentics. Yeah. They have opened up a store called Andon Labs. Well, it's opened by Andon Labs, called Andon Market, and it's in San Francisco. And basically, the whole store is being run and managed and operated by AI called Luna. Luna's done all the hiring. It decides what to sell. Done the logo of the shop, designed the shop logo, done all of these things. And so it's an experiment that is real. And there is a store. I think you can visit it. It's on a specific street in San Francisco. You can kind of go there. Don't know fully what's been sold. I think it's novels and books, sci-fi things. And but anyway, they're trusting it to basically as a test to see how it operates a business and whether it can kind of like build a company on its own without any human intervention. Very unlikely is my take. I think the answer is, I mean, just based on the Clippers story that we just heard, I think we're all safe.
Oh no. Until Mythos 4.0 comes out and you can do that as well.
Oh yeah, until Mythos is out, and then everyone's gonna have the best haircuts we've ever seen. Then it's like
that's it.
Game changing. Yeah.
But
yeah, that was that story. But anyway, so that's it for us. I guess we'll be doing these every week where we can, and kind of sticking to the format. But yeah, it's been good fun. Good having you on now. For this season. So it's going to be good.
First one down. Thank you so much for having me and asking me to do this, John. I really appreciate that. And thanks for all your insights. And we know your love for efficiency. So next time I'll bring something more onto the table that'll make you even more efficient, John.
Oh, wow. That's it. Yeah. Okay, cool. What way? I'm just not on the podcast anymore. It's that efficient.
That's it.
It's just someone else.
Labs. I'm going to get off this call now and just going to tell Andon Labs.
Find a new host.
Host. I want them to be, exactly. Just look at John.
It's efficiency.
Efficiency.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Great speaking to you. Bye-bye.